Hello and welcome back to The Give and Go. I'm your co-host Reynoso here with my boy
Soltero. What's up, guys?
We are recording live from Spotify Studios in LA, man. This is an unreal experience we've had so far, visiting their studios, seeing the headquarters of Spotify here in Los Angeles. Absolutely stunning, absolutely beautiful. And they let us use their studio, man. Look how far we come. And at one point, we started off this podcast in the living room where we sat across from each other and talked footy. And we've made it this far now to Spotify Studios in Los Angeles. And I mean, what a magnificent studio space, what a beautiful area. And just excited to shoot this pod here in this space, bro.
This is incredible. I honestly feel uncomfortable because it's too nice. It's way too nice in comparison to our other studio back home. I don't know where to put my legs. I actually have a cushion underneath my ass, man.
Yeah.
Like, holy hell.
Yeah,
this is incredible. Truly, truly. One of the nicest studios I've ever seen,
No,
just
the
in
nicest.
person. Like the
The
nicest.
nicest, man.
So shout out Spotify because this is an incredible experience and it's an absolute pleasure to do this.
Shall we talk some football, bro?
Oh, let's talk some footy,
Let's talk
brother.
a little footy, man. Let's talk about the situation Messi finds himself within the league, within the MLS.
Yeah.
They're in last place right now, right? He salvaged them from this Leagues Cup tournament, brought them their first trophy, now has them in the final of the U.S. Open Cup. What about this MLS season, though, man? Should we just pencil this one in? Should we just call it in and say, you know what, we don't got to put that pressure on him. There's no need to work Messi. There's no need to give him these crazy minutes in the MLS because it's a done deal? Or is there an actual possibility where he can actually carry this team into a playoff appearance? And once he's in the playoffs, I mean, we're talking about Messi in a knockout stage format.
Yeah.
Once again, we could see him make a crazy run with his Inter Miami side to the final. So what do you think? What do you project as of right now will happen with this Miami team in the league?
Oh, man. In a way, I kind of wish they didn't have the U.S. Open Cup semifinal this Wednesday because I think they could have gotten off in the MLS to a really hot start. You know, start off with a big win. Messi's fully fit. He has a week off. But I go back to that point of how fit is Messi right now? Is he going to start on the bench? Is he going to come off like in the 60th minute? Because if that does happen, then I don't know if Miami gets off to a winning start. But if he plays and he actually ends up being fine and I'm completely wrong about his fitness, which in a way I hope I am, then I think they win this game. And then from there, bro, who's going to stop him?
Yeah.
If Messi's fully fit, I could actually see Inter Miami getting a fringe playoff spot. And then as you just said, who knows what happens after that once into the playoffs, bro?
Yeah.
Like, truly, who knows? We already qualified for next year's Champions League, right? By winning the Leagues Cup. If anything, they won the cup that they were prioritizing more. So I would actually be okay if Miami kind of take the MLS a little bit easy if Messi's not really feeling it. But if he's feeling it, bro, Miami's getting a playoff spot.
Well, yeah, that's for sure. I think it'll be really, really close, dude. I think it'll be really, really close. And what I do like is that outside of Messi, the rest of this Inter Miami team has been playing really, really well, man. We've highlighted them before. Players like Kremashki, Joseph Martinez. You saw Busquets and Jordi Alba on the squad playing really well. Like, I could see the rest of the players kind of stepping up and maybe providing themselves or gaining themselves some victories that really matter. We could see them make a run, regardless of Messi, to get back into the MLS playoff picture. So it's crazy in the grand scheme of things that we're looking at this Inter Miami side as a last place team, but still considering them as a threat to get into the playoffs. That's just the Messi effect. That's the effect of a transfer that happens here in the MLS.
Yeah, because this last game in the semifinal against Cincinnati really solidified the idea that, for example, a player like Kremashki actually is incredibly important to the success of this team. I mean, he didn't play the entire 90 minutes by design from Martino to give him some rest. And the midfield looked sluggish, bro. Yeah. Truly, there wasn't a lot of creativity. What Kremashki brings is a certain amount of fluidity to that midfield. And then you pair him alongside the genius of Busquets. I think you get a really dynamic pair. Ruiz and Gomez ain't it,
Gomez,
bro.
Gomez, no. Ruiz will have his moments, but he's still very immature in his decision making.
Yes. Yeah. And just
Gomez is done for. Ruiz is young, you know?
Ruiz is young.
But Gomez, I see nothing in Gomez.
I just don't see... Yeah, Ruiz, sure, I can give him some credit there, but when I compare him to the impact of Kremashki, I don't want to see them play.
Yeah.
Like, I really don't want to see those guys. I think, no, just, no disrespect. I just truly think Kremaski right now, even though he's so young, has found an incredible wave of energy that he is just riding all the way to the playoffs, hopefully. The Jean Mota made his comeback after being injured for several months. I'm curious to see how he can incorporate himself into this team, because I think when he's fully fit, I think a midfield three of Busquets, Mota, and Kremaski, Loki might be one of the better midfields in the whole league. So going forward, for sure, maybe if Messi's not even at his full powers, maybe they can band together and, use the skill of Kremaski, Busquets, Taylor, Robert Taylor to really go off. And I still think they could, but Messi's going to be that last key ingredient if they want true success.
I want to look at other transfers happening around the world, because we're slowly closing out this transfer window. I believe it ends on September 1st for Premier League sides or for European sides in general. And so we're seeing some pretty crazy, some pretty wacky deals happen. Neymar, did you see that shit where because of his move over to Al-Ahli, they've been they've had their group stage drawn out in the Champions League.
Yeah.
And they have Mumbai City in their group stage. So Neymar will be playing in India. Bro. That's going to be a crazy spectacle, man.
It's going to be nuts.
Have you ever thought of that? Have you ever envisioned that in your mind? Neymar in India, dude? Yeah. It's going to be absolutely sellout. And we're just seeing crazy shit like that happen because of the crazy moves that Saudi Arabia has been making in the transfer window. One of the more notable ones that happened most recently was the signing of 19, 20-year-old Gabri Veiga from Celta Vigo, who at times was linked with Bayern Munich, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Man City, Liverpool, all these big clubs, but ultimately ends up deciding to go to Al-Ahli in Saudi Arabia. And this is notable because, bro, it's the first young talent of this magnitude. No disrespect to Jota from Celtic.
Sure.
This is the first signing of this magnitude that has been pulled and reeled in by Saudi Arabia, in which a player essentially chose to go for that money, chose to go for the Saudi Pro League project instead of, potentially being on a top 6 club in the world. It's crazy what Saudi Arabia has been able to do, the allure they've been building themselves and getting players to come to their leagues. But a player this young, this talented, is the first that we've seen. So what do you make of this sort of transfer impact that Saudi Arabia has been having? Because I remember when we first spoke about Saudi Arabia early on in the transfer window, I said my biggest fear isn't, them reeling in these big superstar names that are established. It's bringing in young players and kind of affecting the European landscape that is already set when it comes to having a young talent, a young prodigy, and the steps they will take to make that big leap into a big club. Saudi Arabia is getting involved with that now. And I'm interested to know what you think overall about their impact on world football.
Dude, if I can be completely honest, I still don't even know how to take these type of transfers. And especially one where the player's so young. Because if you look at a player like Veiga, similar to Rasmus Højlund, he's purely prospective. Yes, he was very good at Celta at such a young age, but he's not putting up superstar numbers. He's not. He's not like an Erling Haaland, for example. And Veiga, I think personally, after seeing him in La Liga last year, I think he still has a lot to work on. Obviously, he has the talent and the potential to be very, very good. And he's already has a lot of skill. So seeing him go to Saudi Arabia, I'm like, my immediate reaction is, it's not the biggest loss in the world. Because Veiga right now, in this moment, isn't even like top 10 to forwards, like not even top 15 in my opinion. Like, he's got a lot of work to do. He's very talented. So when I see him go to Saudi Arabia, I'm like, okay, sure. Did Europe lose a really big piece? No. But did they lose the potential of losing a big piece, which I think is your point? Maybe? I don't know. It's really hard to tell. And especially if he's going to a team that has already bought a lot of talent too. Mm-hmm. Is he going to a team that's worse than Celta?
Is it that much of a downgrade?
Is it that much of a downgrade?
Yeah.
I don't know if it is. Maybe in the defensive end, possibly, if they didn't get a lot of like European defenders. But in the midfield and up front, the players that he's going to be combining with more often, low key.
He's got Mahrez, bro.
Right. Low key might be even better than what he had at Celta. So it gets really interesting is if Veiga takes it seriously, I don't think he'd lose anything. Maybe he doesn't gain anything, right? Maybe
yeah, he's getting money. So he's doing what he would have done anyways.
He's getting money.
He's getting that bag, bro.
He's getting that bag for sure. On the pitch, I don't know if he's losing anything. At the very least, worst case, it's neutral. I truly do think so. So when I see a move like this, I'm just like, I'm not negative about it. I'm not positive about it, but I'm like neutral positive, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, that's how I take this whole thing. I hope he takes it seriously because I think that's going to be the biggest point. If he goes, just makes money, doesn't really care, then yeah, he's going to ruin his entire career. And that's down to him, but also the option that Saudi Arabia gave him, right? Whereas if he stayed in Europe, then for sure he would have had the pressure to succeed because that's what Europe gives you, right?
Yep.
Over any other league in the world, South America, maybe a little bit, but, you know, CONCACAF, Africa, Asia, Europe at the very least gives you the culture and the pressure to succeed. So at that point, it's down to the player to maintain that, right? And again, hopefully with players like Mahrez, he can, you know, sustain that. So it's going to be up to Veiga, though, at that point.
Yeah, he still has a lot of growing to do. He's still very young, and I do think that a guy like this can play there for a few years and then go back to Europe as an established player at that point. Whereas right now, he'd probably be like rotating, coming off the bench for a big team. I do think there's some merit in that. There's something to gain from being on the bench of a really strong squad in Europe, getting to participate in Champions League matches. But you make a great point, one that many people don't really acknowledge or talk about, which is in comparison to Celta Vigo, bro. Like, this is a team that's equal, slightly lesser, or could even be argued to be better than them as of right now because Celta Vigo was ass last year,
They
bro.
were pretty bad.
They're pretty bad.
Yeah.
And so I like that point. I think the money, I think the money does get involved here as well, but it's not as detrimental as, say, like a Neymar signing, man. Like a Neymar essentially selling out is how I see that one, you know? Because I don't think there's much for him to gain at this point in his career by going to Saudi Arabia. Interesting. You said you had a transfer yourself prior to shooting. You said a transfer you wanted to highlight. Or there's something related to transfer you want to talk about. What you got on your mind, man? Let's talk.
Did you
like
see?
This is a therapy session. This feels like a therapy chair.
No, this might be more for you, man. Did you see Luis Chavez?
I saw he's going to Russia.
Going to Russia.
Yeah,
To
committing
play
to
for
it.
Dynamo Moscow, I believe.
Yeah.
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 Interesting.
Sometimes I feel like things get lost in translation. When I said Mexican players need to go to Europe, that's not what I meant.
Right,
bro.
right.
I didn't mean go to Russia,
He
dude.
theoretically did.
He theoretically did.
Theoretically went to Europe.
And I know that all the Hispanic headlines are gonna be saying like Luis Chavez Europeo. He's going to Europe. But he went to possibly one of the worst countries to go to right now in footballing terms because the sport is not growing right there. It's not growing there right now. And they're out of competitions, not allowed to compete in other competitions, I believe, such as European competitions.
Zero exposure.
Yeah, man.
You have
there's
zero exposure.
So that's where he's going to, the purgatory of Europe right now, man. He couldn't have gone to fucking Slovenia or some other
Right,
shit.
low key, man.
Go somewhere else.
Go to
bro.
Maribor and get in the third round of qualifying of Champions League. Bro.
Dude. I was confused by it, bro. I was like, dude, Luis Chavez should be. He's tailor made for FC Porto, in my opinion. Like that classic Mexican connection that FC Porto has with their players. Usually signing offensive midfielders or forwards.
Yeah.
Luis Chavez is the perfect fit and mold for what is the modern version of that. And just never got involved with Portuguese football, never got involved with even Dutch football, which is known for recruiting Mexicans. Instead, he goes off to fucking Mother Russia, dude. And so have at it. I hope that maybe from there he can take a next big leap or step towards going to a bigger league. But it's not super optimistic as of right now because of the specific situation going on in Russia, man.
Yeah, and for, Mexican fans themselves, how are we going to watch him play?
Oh, yeah.
We're not.
Yeah.
There's just absolutely no way. Yeah. There may have been a
Man,
chance if there was in Champions League, right? But there's absolutely no way now since Russia's isolated essentially right now. And so, yeah, this just gets weird. This just gets really strange. And I wonder what type of feeds Jimmy Lozano is going to be seeing when he tries to assess Luis Chavez's play in Russia. Like, is he gonna get like USBs of like bootleg footage of Chavez playing?
Yeah, bro, lowly lit videos and shit. Luis is like struggling out there and shit too.
Yeah,
man.
Also true.
I wonder how he's gonna fit into the actual team.
I haven't even thought about that. But like, truly, is his play going from Pachuca and just the MX? Is it going to translate to what is definitely a better league in Russia? Like, honestly, I really do wonder if he's going to be able to adapt. I think I don't think the learning curve is going to be that steep because he is a very talented player, and I do think Pachuca play very good football. So I think he's going to have success for sure, but I do wonder if he's going to struggle a little bit.
Yeah.
Is it going to be more physical than he's used to? I wish I could see that.
Yeah,
I really do.
I would hope that he can spend 1 season, maybe 2 seasons max in Russia and kind of pull a Malcolm. Malcolm went off in Russia just last year. He scored like 27 goals or some shit.
Yeah.
But from there, Saudi Arabia got involved and they bought him out. At this point, I'd much rather Luis Chavez be in Saudi Arabia over Russia.
Absolutely, dude. You'd be playing at least against 4 other Saudi Arabian teams that have superstars, right? And then if you're good enough on a Saudi Arabia team, maybe play some Champions League football against other good teams, and then play against Eastern Asian teams if you go that far in the Champions League, man.
Yeah.
Like you could play some really, really good football internationally too if you play in the right Asian team. So yeah, dude, I'd rather that, honestly.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah, other notable transfers, man. I mean, Doku going from Rennes to Man City.
Yeah.
Essentially, the Riyad Mahrez replacement is how I see it. Getting a new fiery winger that could either just come off the bench or could start for you as well. Will he start? I don't think so. I think he's going to be more of a rotational piece for his Manchester City team. Something they needed because it's kind of how they utilize Mahrez himself.
Yeah.
Playing, 15 games a season? I would say 15 to 20 games. I can see him just being inserted into this team, being impacted with that Pep Guardiola winger knowledge and effect, and thriving yet again.
But on that note, I've been actually wanting to ask you personally and the fans as well, because I would love to know everyone's true opinion on it. And I've always had this opinion, but it's just one I've never shared since, we've only had the podcast for a couple of years now. But it's the idea that so many big transfers, for example, Doku going to Manchester City, so many big transfers happen after the season has already started. And it kind of bothers me just from like a strategic point of view. Like, for example, if I was a coach, I would hate it if I was receiving a player that late, or even more so, if I was losing a player that late. And maybe I wouldn't be as upset if the football world was just way more transparent on how transfers are done, because maybe they told the Rennes coach a month ago that Doku's probably going to be sold. They just don't know when. If that's the case, then I have no problem with it because he was at least communicated to it. But if it was literally like a week ago, hey, by the way, we just heard from Manchester City. You're not going to have him for the rest of the season. Sorry. Yeah. I would be like, you're fucking kidding me. And dude, screw it. Not even as a coach. As a fan of Rennes, I'd be like, oh, God. Yeah. There goes our season.
You already played one game in the league, or 2 games, I think, in the league.
And you saw him play.
And you saw him play, and you got excited about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's cruel, bro. It's cruel. Well, did you hear what Xavi said? He said something in regards to this. Xavi expressed basically the same frustration.
Did he?
From a strategic point of view, because his problem lies with Saudi Arabia, because the European transfer window ends September 1st. Saudi Arabia ends September 20th, bro.
That's like almost another month.
Yeah, they're still going to be getting involved for what? By the 6th, 7th match week of the fucking season, dude.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's a step even further from your point, is that this transfer window scheduling is really interesting. And I've always found it really interesting too, but it's tough, bro. There's so many different leagues in the world. There's so much activity going on the daily. To get as many deals as get done in the summer, all within like a condensed month-long period, would be insane. But might be what's necessary to avoid having, scheduling conflicts like we're seeing with Doku leaving Rennes after having played for them already.
That's so true, man. You take a step back. Logistically, it's almost impossible to have all your signings done before the season start, if, for example, you're English, because the offseason is a month long, right? Football is essentially an all-year-long event in Europe, and how can you get everything done within a 30, 40-day period? I get that. I just wish, from like a fantasy point of view, that it wasn't like that, truly, because, if I really was a Rennes fan, I'd be livid right now, dude. I really would be. And thankfully, I follow Atletico, which is, a remotely large team in Spain specifically, and even in Europe over the last decade. So we don't really deal with stuff like this, but I can only imagine what it would be like to be, a fan of, Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Yep.
And there's talks that Mateus Nunes, a guy, when you need players right now at Wolves, bro, when you need players, and there's talks that he's probably going to leave.
Yep.
Like that. Oh God, dude, I don't even want to think about that. I just don't. So yeah, I'm very thankful that I generally don't have to deal with it as like a diehard fan of my team.
All right. Live from Spotify Studios in LA, a massive thank you to everyone here that has facilitated the Give and Go arriving and using their studio space. Absolutely beautiful what they have to offer here. It's amazing. We will be seeing you guys next time. Peace.
Peace.